Hello, welcome to the Run Testers. My name's Nick and this is our first run review of the Puma Fast-Trac Nitro. So the Fast-Trac Nitro is a new release from Puma this year. It's designed to be a road to trail shoe, an all-terrain shoe, depending on how you term it, with an outsole that can handle plenty of road running, but also light trails, slushy trails, that kind of thing. It comes in at £100 in the UK or $110 in the US, and it's got an 8mm drop from heel to toe, with a stack height of 29mm at the heel and 21 at the forefoot. And it's a pretty light shoe. My UK size 9 weighs 284 grams or 10 ounces on the dot. Now it's got Nitro in the name, so you know there's some of Puma's nitrogen-infused foam in the midsole. With the Fast-Trac you've got a full-length Nitro top layer of foam embedded in the ProFoam Lite EVA midsole. So you're getting that kind of slightly bouncier, softer feeling on top with the EVA midsole underneath, in a similar way to you get on the Velocity Nitro 2 road shoe. Got a ripstop mesh upper with a little band there you can tuck your laces into. Got a fully gusseted tongue and a little bit of reinforcement around the front of the toe box to protect your toes if you are on the trails. You've also got this pull loop at the back of the shoe here and quite a high and firm collar. There's a fair bit of structure at the back there, but it's firm kind of all the way around the collar. You will notice it when you pull on the shoe. You can also get a Gore-Tex version of this shoe if you want some extra protection from the elements. The outsole uses Puma Grip ATR, which is the all-terrain version of Puma's excellent Puma Grip. You've got these fairly shallow lugs that sit quite close together, so you get a fairly full amount of ground contact when you're on the road, but you do get those little spaces there that can help you dig into slightly softer surfaces when you are on light trails.
So I'm normally a size 8 in the UK, but the shoes that I was testing were size 8.5, so there was definitely a bit more space than I wanted in these shoes, but there wasn't loads, so it seems to me like it would be a true to size shoe, but probably best to listen to what Nick has to say on that.
So fit for me on the Fast-Trac Nitro has been fine, true to size, got a nice amount of room in the front of the shoe there, pretty roomy stuff, maybe slightly roomier than the Puma road shoes, but in general no concerns there. The collar's a bit high around the heel. It does create a good secure fit, but it does create a little bit of firmness there at the start of runs, but overall no problems with slipping or anything like that. Yeah, it's a good fit in my normal size.
So I think the Fast-Trac Nitro is a really interesting shoe for Puma to develop, and it's one that's probably quite useful for a lot of runners in the UK, because there's a lot of times that I go out for a run in parks, on canal paths, all those sorts of things, where I don't really want a proper full-on trail shoe because the paths are actually pretty close to road, but they're just not as good. So they can be sort of hard compacted mud, or they can be gravel paths and things like that, where I can use a road shoe to do them, but it would be nice to have a little bit of extra grip. So the Fast-Trac Nitro really seems to be doing just that. It's a shoe that is essentially a road shoe, but it has more to it in the outsole than you would normally get in a road shoe, so you can tackle harder surfaces, so you're not going to slip around on those surfaces and things like that. So to test it out, I took it to a park near me and did a 10k route, which was about 4 laps of the park, and I did 5k on the paths around the park, so asphalt paths, and then 5k around the trail parts of the park. Now it's been quite wet in Brighton at the moment. It's very muddy in certain areas and it is quite slippy, so it was a good time to test out the shoe and really give it a run for its money in terms of how it will deal with those road to trail type surfaces. On those road sections, it was fine. It felt comfortable, but what I would say is that it's quite a firm shoe. So in comparison to things like the Puma Velocity Nitro 2, it is definitely a shoe that veers more towards that harder midsole foam. And for me, it was fine on those surfaces for like that 5k that I was doing, but I wouldn't want to use it for an extended time on concrete surfaces because it's just not soft enough for me. It's just not enough cushioning in it. However, when you go onto the softer surfaces, when you're running through the trail sections or on the grass around the park, it really does start to come into its own, and it delivers very well on those. That firmer, harder midsole ceases to be noticeable, and suddenly it just delivers like a really comfortable road shoe, but on the trail surfaces. So I was really impressed on how it dealt with those surfaces. And that grip on the outsole is very, very good. It was very wet and slippy out on the run that I did, and it had no issues at all gripping that wet, muddy surface. And there were some inclines and declines in the park that I run in. No issues at all with grip. I think it was very good. Also feels like quite a nice light shoe. And I did feel like I could pick up the pace quite nicely over the course of that run. It definitely felt like it wasn't a clumpy trail shoe, and it's not a heavily cushioned shoe, so it does feel like it's a shoe that you can use for running faster, which is great if you're doing a lot of your training around a park and you want something that you can do interval training for or run a little bit faster, and you need more of a lighter, leaner shoe that can do that. So even though it is focused on both trails and road, it does feel like a lighter road shoe, not like some of the thicker trail shoes that I often test.
So just back from my second run in the Puma Fast-Trac Nitro. I went out for a nice easy run early yesterday morning. I've just been out for another fairly easy run today at lunchtime. Kind of 40 minutes easy, then 35 minutes easy today with some strides, and really been aiming to test out things like the grip and comfort of the shoe rather than any kind of real performance stuff yet. But grip has been really good, yeah. So, when I saw this shoe, I was hoping it might be just a slightly grippier version of the Velocity Nitro, which already has very good grip, and it's been really good. So I've been to my local forest on both runs, done a mix of kind of roads there, muddy trails, some kind of leafy stuff, some forest roads that are a bit broken up, that kind of thing, and no concerns about grip at all. It's been really good across the board. Glasses are steaming up. So yeah, that's been great on that front. Like, really looks like a very strong road to trail option, even at this time of year when the forest is starting to get a bit muddy. Not sure I'd dive off the main trails into the really, deep single track mud, but when you just got that small sheen of kind of wet stuff on top of hard ground, the outsole's good enough to kind of bite through that and grip. If you've got a bit deeper, it might not have the lugs to really bite in further and deep. But so far, very nice. And the comfort's been good too. The collar's quite high and firm, and on my right foot, it comes up, creates a bit of a pressure point at the start of a run. But as the runs have gone on, it's not been a problem really. So that's been fine. And underfoot, it's a bit firmer than the Velocity Nitro, I'd say, but it's pretty comfortable. Like when I've come down hills on harder ground, it gets a bit slappy for me as a heel striker, but still pretty comfortable. I haven't obviously been out for very long in it yet, but it does feel like a nice shoe that you can go out for really long runs in, hopefully mixing up your trails quite a lot. Canal towpaths in particular, I think it'll be amazing for that at this time of year. So yeah, so far, nice positive impression of it. Like today was ticking along, fairly nice pace, and it felt good for that. It's not quite as that same soft and bouncy feeling of the Velocity Nitro, because the outsole, I think, firms it up a bit. There's probably a slightly different balance of foams in there, probably a bit more of the EVA stuff. But it does feel nice, stable, controlled shoe, and the grip has been really good so far. With the Fast-Trac Nitro, I was looking for it to be a pretty versatile daily trainer that can handle a bit more terrain than your average shoe, and I think so far it's doing a solid job of that. It's a it's a really practical shoe. It's not the most exciting one in the world, but it does a really good job for certain conditions, and basically exactly what I'm in this time of year in the UK, where the pavements are covered in leaves. The light trails near me are pretty muddy, but not all out muddy where I require a full trail shoe just yet. So it really works well as a shoe that can handle all the terrains around me, and I think it should be pretty versatile in terms of performance. Haven't really done anything too speedy in it yet, but it's a pretty lightweight shoe, surprisingly so, given the outsole we've got here and the fairly built up upper. So I think with that nitro foam in the midsole, you should get a decent amount of pace out of it if you are using it for slightly faster daily training as well. Don't think it's quite as soft or as poppy as the Puma Velocity Nitro is, with the trade-off being that you're getting a slightly more stable, firmer shoe that will work better on the trails. Up against shoes in this category, things like the Nike Pegasus Trail 4 and the Innovate Park Law G280. I think both of those are maybe slightly more comfortable on the road. Though I haven't done a full road run in this shoe yet, but this is a lighter, nimbler shoe for sure, and I think that will come into play when you do try and up the pace in it. So there's lots to like about the shoe so far, including the price, which once again is very good value coming out of Puma's range. Always something that we love to see. It's not a shoe that immediately blows your socks off. Like, I've not been wowed by it on these couple of runs, but I have been impressed by it, and it's certainly a practical shoe that I think you could end up really warming to over time, just by virtue of the fact that it's a shoe that does a lot of things pretty well, and you just want to use it a lot as a result. We'll come back with our full verdict in a few weeks once we've done a fair bit more running in the Fast-Trac Nitro.
So my verdict on the Puma Fast-Trac Nitro is that it's a really interesting shoe, and I think it's a very useful shoe if you're the sort of runner that does spend a lot of time running on surfaces where you need a little bit of extra grip. I don't think it's going to replace a trail shoe for a lot of people, and I don't think it's going to tick the boxes as a road shoe for people as well. But I think for that very specific purpose, where you are running along those lighter trails and you want something that gives you a bit more grip, I think it's a really nice option. So I'm definitely going to be picking this up for a lot of training over the next few weeks as I hit more of the sort of public bridle ways around here and across some of the less treacherous surfaces across the South Downs. And I think it's a very comfortable shoe as well. So yeah, impressed so far, and I think it's a very useful shoe for some people.